Hello world and welcome to episode 18 of Top Splits, also known this time as Splash and Dash 4. I'm your host Alex McKellar, and joining me once again is my co-host Dr. Alex John, aka the Doctor. Welcome back for another crack at Splash and Dash, AJ.
Yeah, g'day Alex, good to be back. I think we'll have a bit to cover. I haven't been on for a while.
Yeah, well, we are back again. Had a couple of longer episodes while we've been away. There's been a lot going on in the iRacing world as well, so I think you're right. There'll be a bit to catch up on. Well, since the last one, of course, I spoke to Fahim Antoniadis, which was great. And last episode, we had the real treat in speaking with Marcos Ambrose. I know Marcos had a big impact on me, AJ. Did you take anything away from the episode?
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening to the episode with Marcus. Being a Tassie boy myself, it's nice to see what another Tasmanian can achieve, and going onto such a massive stage that is NASCAR was really impressive. But it's nice to see that now he's stepped back from that. He's a real advocate for iRacing. I don't really know too many other professional races that sort of go about it as passionately as Marcus. So that was really nice to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was streaming earlier in the week and I saw Marcus in the skips while I was streaming, and I spoke briefly with him afterwards, and he said he was trying out the new tyre model, as we all do, right? So again, speaking to his being a fan of iRacing and just like one of us, wanting to get out there. But I haven't got his feedback from that session yet, but it'll be interesting to see what he thought. But as for the podcast with him, I was really inspired by, as you say, like this infectious enthusiasm that he had, and I have to admit that with all the kerfuffle around the skips and the new tyre model at the moment, I've kind of let that all wash over me in favour of just getting out there and having fun in my racing. And I feel like that was one of the key messages that Marcus brought to the table. Get out there on track and enjoy a great sim and a great community, and to go with the fantastic racing that we all get to experience. It's certainly what stuck with me the most, and I certainly had a positive impact on me. That's for sure. And I'm hoping others, who hear it get something like that out of it.
Yeah, that's right. I was sort of a little bit the same, to be honest. I mean, as you say, the new tyre model, and that there has been a lot of controversy, and I wouldn't say that it's that it's not iRacing's fault in some aspects, because they did wait a week. The thing that always gets me with iRacing is just the communication, or maybe lack thereof. Sometimes they came back and put a good post up, but it was a week, and sort of week 13, people not having too much to do, and it sort of got a little bit out of hand. I don't know if our listeners frequent the forums, but I don't know. I think I counted maybe 6 threads, and there were threads getting locked, and there was a thread saying that it's the best time model ever. There was one saying it's the worst thing ever, and you could get your popcorn out and just have a good chuckle over the comments that are on there. But at the end of the day, it's a nice step forward, and as you say, ignoring all of the controversy that goes on the forums, that's not what iRacing's about. It's about getting out on track and having fun. So as with you, I've done the same, and I've been enjoying my racing in this new season.
Yeah, look, for me, it was all that stuff on the forums. It was an incredible example of everything that's sort of good and bad about the connected world that we live in, courtesy of the internet. One of the biggest praise points that I have about the internet is how it enables every voice to be heard. I guess the irony is that with that comes the realization that not only do we all not sing the same song, as it were, when it comes to our opinions on stuff, perhaps that's an obvious statement, but also that sometimes how people express their opinions is or has as much of an impact as what their opinions are, and as you say, we've had every discussion and argument I could think you could have ever imagined possible, raging, I should say, in the multiple locations on the forums, as you said, and no doubt, beyond that, in many pockets of iRacing communities around the world, everything from the general physics of the way the tyre model has affected how the car moves on the track within the sim, to how it's impacted on the value of the skip arbor and iRacing as a tool for people who use it to get, virtual track time to develop or maintain skills for their real world racing, was pretty interesting. All the stuff that went on. AJ, anything that stood out for you?
No, look, just I had a chuckle. There was one person that posted up about the tyre developer saying they should get somebody that's been in this car and knows what they're doing, and somebody, I assume, that's in the know knows the person that actually develops a tyre model, pointed out that the tyre developer has a couple of wins in a skip barber and multiple starts, so he does actually know what they're talking about. But yeah, look, it seems that the skip barber community was selected as the guinea pigs for the new tyre model, and both good and bad thing because as we know in that community, there's a lot of passion and people not wanting iRacing necessarily to meddle with their beloved Skippy. But as a whole, I've tried out the new time model a couple of times myself, done a few races, and I think that it's a good step forward in general. It's a lot more dynamic. People argue that it's too dynamic. It's too much of a difference between cold to hot, and that's probably a fair statement. I don't know because I haven't raced cars like this on a track, so I don't know, but definitely more dynamic. And at first thought, whether it's placebo effect or not, but I thought that the new time model also um, transferred a little bit more feeling through to my hands at the wheel. I don't know about you, Alex, but I thought it was a good step forward or a step sideways. Maybe not perfect still, but um, I'm certainly still enjoying the racing.
Yeah, certainly the racing's been good. I've enjoyed it. Although I've been taking a bath in the I rating stakes and the results just generally already this season. But look, for me, whilst I think there are a few people taking things possibly a little too seriously. I don't want to necessarily criticise people's opinions or how seriously they take it. Some are completely the opposite and just you end up trashing other people's races, sort of thing. But you know, partly I put that sort of serious face on it. I put that down to what I was saying before about, I'm just really trying to enjoy my racing. And after my catch up with Marcos, I really hadn't considered the point made. There was a thread, in about in the forums about the potential suspension of the 2K Cup. And I think because that's the premier series on Skip Barber racing, on iRacing, and as it turns out, I think they have suspended it in the end. There was one thing that I think I mentioned before, a few people saying that the changes meant that they were concerned about a small amount of track time that they got in the real world would be impacted by the fact that the changes in the physics and how they had to control the car as a result, impacted the muscle memory gained through practicing on the sim. Now that's a really extreme example. It's very salient. I would have thought very relevant. If someone can say that this sim that we love racing on is so close to reality that they feel that when they might go to the track 2-3 times a year, they feel that they're a few steps ahead of the people who get the same amount of real world track time because of the physics and the way they get to practice on the sim. Well, that's a big deal to them, and I can see that, right? But yeah, I don't know. Like you, mate, I haven't done any real world track time. I've sort of rolled with the punches on it. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe a slightly different tact. Look, before I move off that, I do, though, appreciate what they're saying for that reason. But it's obviously not going to be for the majority of people in that same sense as well. But I think perhaps the most salient example of the physics issues, because I think we can all agree there are physics issues with the new tyre model. It was raised by Miko Nassi in his thread about managing oversteer. He had a couple of really, really good examples that showed it exactly. If you haven't seen the post that Miko put up, he had a thread with those videos in there about how when you were counter steering into a spin, you actually the rear of the car got lost even further. And made the spin worse rather than helping to correct. And actually having the steering in a neutral position helped to correct the spin, which of course is completely counterintuitive and to how physics work. So we can acknowledge that there are a few issues, perhaps more than highlighting the issues, though. I wanted to congratulate Miko on the constructive way in which he approached his contribution. He didn't look to do anything more than offer a well-educated representation of his observations in the end. And I know I certainly appreciated that, mate. Did you catch that thread at all?
Yeah, I certainly did, and it was one of those sort of, I don't know if it was a light bulb moment, but I was like, aha, that is why I'm spinning out all of the time. But
Yeah.
yeah, look, there's definitely some looks to be some underlying issues with the. Well, I'm not sure whether it's so much a tyre model, but maybe it's the dated Skippy model being the first car that they really worked on. 10 years old, and perhaps as the tyre models are progressing, that's sort of showing up some of the holes in the Skip Barber's coating. Um, I mean, all of the cars that, or at least the newer cars that are coming out, it seems every car we get that they come out with such amazing feeling in the hands. Like you get in one and it just feels amazing to drive. Um, and that's obviously through iRacing, making strides in their development of the different car models that they introduce. So maybe it's just a sign that the Skippy's getting a bit long in the tooth.
Absolutely. There was, as you say, there was a statement by John Henry in the midst of one of those many threads this week. He's obviously part of the iRacing team out there, and he said the testing was not as extensive as we might have been thinking. He also hinted at the future Formula 4 car, which I thought was interesting as well. But as you say, perhaps most interesting in that post was the fact that the Skippy was the first car that iRacing built and essentially remains largely untouched in terms of how it's constructed in the sim. Interesting in some respects, in so much as we drive a really old car from the perspective of, it's a real life old car. Things have really moved on, and also from the perspective of the sim, it's one of their oldest cars. You can understand now perhaps the way, it's so old, the rear of the car when you drive it, if you get a touch in the rear, the thing folds like a bad hand at the poker table sort of thing. And I do get some hope from the videos that demonstrated elements of the new damage model a while back. They used the skip, so it made me think perhaps the old girl might get a bit of a serious overhaul and might be getting a bit more love going forward. But who knows? Look, to finish up on the topic of the new tyre model, I don't want to focus on just its shortcomings. For me, I've taken, as I said, a hammering in my results in the first 2 weeks of the season, but it was not because of the new tyre model. It's a level playing field. We've all got it. It was more because of how I've driven for the most part. But yes, the tyres are crazy when you first come out of the pits. Yes, then they warm up and you get more grip than you could have ever dreamed of. For me, I've enjoyed the racing when I've kept it on the track. Really enjoyed it, actually. I've said many times on the stream since its release that yes, there are some physics issues, but I'm still having a great time racing, and I'm confident that'll get sorted, AJ.
Yeah, no, I'm right with you there. But I do enjoy the more dynamic nature. Before, I tend to go out and first lap just sort of drive as hard as I could, sort of thing. Now actually having to pull myself back and give the tires at least 2 laps to warm up is enjoyable. It sort of gives the race, it makes it feel like there's different sections to the race. You got your start, your middle, and then the end where you'll be battling. But the start is definitely its own chapter in the race now. So I've just enjoyed the dynamic nature of the new tires. So I'd hope that we continue to get that. Perhaps not as in bigger window that it is now, but just the tires being more dynamic and the feeling through um, the wheels being really good. So it'll be interesting though to just see where that goes when you put that on something that's got a bit more power, like a Porsche, Cup car, or one of the like the new F3 um, open wheeler that already feel quite nice to drive. Whether that translates over to those cars as well as an improvement, or whether that's the tyre model still got shortcomings. But good to see, just good to see that they're getting closer. And I look forward to the changes that they'll make in that, and though that change rolling out on the other cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking the F3 race you and I did earlier today. We had the tyres now got the tyre warmers, so obviously it's not going to be a stark a contrast. But can you imagine the death that would ensue if they had the same sort of tyres as the Skippy did at the moment on the first laps?
Yeah,
Oh, it'd just be crazy.
it'd
Anyway,
be a bloodbath.
yeah, anyway, let's move on. Last thing for today, Sunday Night Lights. We kicked it off last week. First week of the iRacing season, of course, season 2, 2019. New Skippy, free track, and the punters came out in droves. I think it's the first time ever we had 6 splits, 4,200 plus strength of field. It was a good race for the viewers. New broadcast overlays, plenty of mistakes from me in using them. It pretty much had everything. Couldn't have been much happier with the start to the season, AJ.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Great to see that. everyone sort of come around that time slot as well because I know for you it's been a lot of work, so not sort of knowing whether the message has gotten across to everyone, whether we're going to get a good turnout. It was nice to see that it was, I think, the second highest off, and only pipped by a handful of points later on the next day, I think, or later on that day. So great to see, and it means that the Australians are going to have a lot tougher competition this season. So for those that are making a run at Sunday Night Light Championship, it's certainly going to be a lot tougher. We saw Kevin Henderson; he blew an engine unrelated to the pressure of the racing, but others like Ben Snell as well. In there having to contend with the pressure of the really really close racing that we saw, and also onto that, yeah, the standard of racing with the guys that we had up front until we had the last lap incident was really great. So I'm hoping that continues on, and hopefully Sunday Night Lights may even perhaps become the big soft race. Who knows? I'd love to see that.
Yeah, well, look, we came pretty close with Monday Night Lights. There was a season or two where we did have the strongest average field for the whole season, which was fantastic. Certainly, I think last week's race may have put some of our regular local folk on notice with regards to getting into the top split. There were some really quick guys who missed out. Yeah, look, I was really pleased, as I said, with the turnout and the approach that everyone took. It's Sunday now as we speak, so I'll be putting up all the notifications, trying to draw a bit of a crowd this week again. But going back to the results itself, even though he's not a true local boy, so to speak, great to see one of our adopted SNL brothers from overseas in Mr. Hawken Grebstad have a great race. And he raced really smart, and he was quick and up with the leaders all night. And he took out the first SNL event, which was great. Sebastian Schultz came in second with Luis Gonzaga Filho, the Brazilian, coming in third. They got a bit lucky there with the last lap or two's incidents, but as you say, the racing up front was excellent. But you have to go all the way down currently in the standings to ninth position to find our first local driver in Sammy Katakazinos, courtesy of his top 10 finish in the top split. But certainly we can see our regulars from the ANZ club and overseas still putting up their hands and getting out on track to support this series, AJ, which is what it's all about in the end.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, like you say, it's going to be interesting for the guys that want to try and crack into the Sunday Night Lights now. 3,500 IR you needed pretty much to guarantee an entry. So I mean, even I'm below 3,500 now, sadly. So I'm going to have a run tonight, and I might be in the second split, but that guarantees that the second split's going to be highly competitive as well. Of course, you score points all the way down to the third split. So, those guys that are getting kicked back to the second split, they've still got a good chance of the championship fight. But it means that I think the prestige of getting into that top split now as well is going to be quite high. It's going to be a real achievement for the guys that do get in. And yeah, with Håkon Grebstad, our adopted Aussie. He was only car 9, I think it was, in that race,
Yep.
and managed to get through and take the win. So that was I mean, I race with Håkon all the time, and I know he's a good driver, but I was a little bit shocked by that. He put on a stellar drive, so it shows that the quality of that top field as well. Anywhere in the top 10, all those drivers are good drivers. Yeah, it's not like the skill drops off drastically at any point. So as Håkon proved, anyone's possibly going to be able to take out those races.
Yeah, I agree. I really I thought Hawken Great raced really smart. Actually, he made the moves when he needed to in that front pack to get in a position to win it, and then took the opportunities when they presented. So congratulations, it was a great drive. So of course, you can catch the race tonight as I speak now, but forevermore on the Top Split YouTube channel. Of course, we broadcast live 9:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Don't ask me what time it is in the world other than Australia, because I just don't know. I get it wrong all the time. But you can catch it on the Top Split YouTube channel or at thetopsplit.com, where all this and previous season's broadcast races are collected, as well as the current season standings, although I'll probably put up old season standings when I get a chance as well. It'll be a good way to get ready for the race, as if I'm hoping to get this out before, I am hoping to get this out before the race tonight. Go and check out last week's broadcast because the SNL caravan moves to Sebring tonight and the club layout, of course, which we will be doing live, as I said, on the Top Split YouTube channel. You and Timmy G, of course, played rock, paper, scissors, and I think you get to drive tonight, and Tim Gorkrotch will be in the booth with me. It's a shorter layout. I really enjoy the short layouts in the skips. You're lucky to get into fifth gear, or you might want to ride the limiter a bit towards the end of the back straight. I find I enjoy these smaller layouts a lot in the skip at the moment. It's a different and a fun challenge. So good luck to all our drivers heading out on track tonight. AJ, that's about it for us this episode. We're looking forward to being back in a couple of weeks to talk some more iRacing news and views. In between now, AJ, you'll be racing. Any streams lined up, mate?
Yeah, look, I might try and get the stream up for tonight, so look out for me with the Sunday Night Lights, or have a look back. But yeah, I'll be in Sunday Night Lights in the future, so look out for me there.
Beautiful. I'll make sure to have those links up below the podcast, of course. I'll be streaming 2 to 3 nights a week, generally on Top Split TV Twitch channel. Again, I'll leave the link to our respective Twitch channels, the Top Split YouTube channel, where you'll find all the SNL broadcast past and present, as well as the link to the Top Split Facebook and Discord communities. Those two communities, that's the place where we'd love to hear from you in relation to what you'd like us to cover, any questions or comments you might have. Always looking to engage with our listeners. Thank you once again for joining me this time round. AJ, any parting thoughts?
No, just good luck to all those guys with Sunday Night Lights, and I'm looking forward to that building up. And even with the negative comments with the time model and everything, I hope that we'll get the turnout of the best drivers there to fight it out.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, folks. Thank you as well for joining us once again. We look forward to your company here and at all the other Top Split places around the traps for now, though. On behalf of my co-host, Dr. Alex John, I've been your host, Alex McKellar, and I will say ciao for now.